Hello, welcome back to my channel. It is Brittany, your friendly plant-loving internet stranger, back with another video. I've truly been a stranger. I don't even remember the last time I filmed a sit-down video like this. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this video yet. Maybe this will be like Layoff Diaries update, because it is give an update, and I'm going to try to do this in one take. I mean, I do all of my videos mostly in one take, but I do some editing to chop it up. So I'm going to try to be succinct and film it within 20 minutes. Let's say 20 minutes. I have a list, so that's helpful. First of all, hello, how are y'all doing? It's been a minute. I hope your summer's been going well if you're in the northern hemisphere, and your winter if you're in the southern hemisphere. And yeah, that's that. I have been living, thriving, enjoying my summer. Just to jump right into this video, this is now, I have something in my eye, sorry. This is now what, month six or month seven of like post layoff. When did I get laid off? I got laid off. My official last day was January 31st. So yeah, like 6 months, or maybe I'm in the 7th month. Somebody tell me, I don't know, but that's quite a long time, right? And how do I feel about still being unemployed and like still applying for jobs and not really, getting anything? I feel okay about it, honestly. I feel better than I thought I would be feeling at this point in unemployment. And part of me is like, dang, I wish Joann Fabrics was still in business, because I would have been working there. I love me some Joann Fabrics. I would have put that green vest on with the quickness, but that probably would have been bad because I would have been spending my whole check on stuff at the store. Anyway, life has been good. Life has been really good. It's been abundant. It's been fruitful. One of the big updates is that when I started this layoff series back in January, I don't think I started posting it until February, because I was trying to like get out of the job before I started posting these videos. I mentioned that I had started taking a course, and I'm done with my course. I graduated this week from the course. I did a permaculture design course. And so this is like the beginning of the next chapter in my life, my next career trajectory with plants, like that's been my goal. I used to joke with people. It really was not a joke. They thought it was a joke when I was saying it. 2 jobs ago, maybe 2 or 3 jobs ago, I would tell my coworkers like, yeah, I wish I could work with plants and not people. And they would just laugh, and I would laugh. And I'm like, I'm so serious though. Like, I don't want to work with y'all. I would rather be working with these plants. And so I made that decision in January, like a week before I got laid off, I believe. I go into detail about like how this all happened in one of the previous layoff videos that I posted some months ago. But it was truly a decision that I made because I wanted to forge a new path for myself. And I knew that the only way I was going to be able to do that was to actually do something different. Like I couldn't stay in the job I was in. I was in nonprofit management. I couldn't keep doing these nonprofit management jobs in the industry that I was in and like not even really enjoying the work, and then be mad that I'm doing work I don't like if I wasn't actively making any changes in my life. So that kind of segues into my next bullet point, which is decisions as portals. Me deciding that I was ready to work with plants, make the plant work my full-time job, was that, and entrepreneurship. Like, I've always known that I'm just not meant to be reporting to another person. Not in the way that I had, not in a 9-to-5 KPI, performance review type of a person. Like, as a consultant working with whoever's paying me, like, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense for me. Just given me, given my personality and what I know about myself and the environments that I thrive in, I've never really been great at taking direction. And this is not even to be arrogant or anything, but I've had so many leaders. I've worked under so many leaders, and I I can only say of the people that I've worked under, maybe one or two of them I've truly learned from. The rest of them, I just kind of sat back and have been like, how are you the boss? Like, how is it that I'm giving you advice on how to lead the team, or how to do your job, or how to do this thing or that thing, or like, you are getting paid all the big bucks and I'm the subordinate, but the roles feel reversed. Like, you don't feel equipped for your role. And we all have imposter syndrome from time to time, but it would just be like, this was happening so regularly for me that I had to really unpack what was going on. And I'm like, dang, is the issue me? And I remember it was a conversation I had with my therapist sometime last year, maybe early 2025, where she was like, yeah, it is you, because you are not meant to be doing that type of work. You are the odd person out because you are not meant to be under anyone else's leadership. Like, you are meant to be the leader. And I had been avoiding positions that required me to like step into a leadership role because, yeah, I wanted the money that came along with that, but I didn't want the extra burden and the stress and the, late hours and doing all of this stuff, because there was just this expectation that comes along with being a leader that you are supposed to exhaust yourself and overwhelm yourself for the benefit of a company that that pays you pennies compared to whatever the revenue is that they bring in. And in the nonprofit sector, it's like, I've worked for these various nonprofits that they say they have missions and value statements and all of this stuff. And you look at them, you're like, okay, this is what y'all do. But then y'all just accept money from whoever gives you money, even if that organization is not aligned with what you said you were about. And I got tired of that. I got tired of that cycle. I got tired of working in positions where, so much of my work was dependent on a funder, which is exactly what happened in my last role, where it was just like, oh, this funder is not going to fund this work anymore, so that's your job. And I didn't want to be in that level of chaos and instability, and just like, that was stressful in itself, not knowing if there was job security. And that was just kind of the nature of my industry, which is very volatile in that way. And so when I had this moment of clarity where it was like, okay, I know the way my therapist described it was like, you're the square peg trying to fit yourself into the round hole. That's why you keep running up against these same issues in every job. And I remember talking to somebody who was kind of like a mentor to me a few years ago. And I was telling her, like, I just feel like I can't find a job that makes me happy. And she was like, well, when this stuff keeps repeating, usually there's a lesson in it. And I heard that, and I took it as some sort of deficit in me. Like, well, what's the lesson? Why can't I learn the lesson? When really the lesson was, I'm not supposed to be doing this type of work. Like, that was the lesson. You are not aligned with what you're doing. You're not aligned with the structure of the work and the roles. And you are supposed to be doing something that's more aligned with what your genuine interests are, because then what's the old saying, like, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I didn't know how that was going to like translate into a real job that pays me money, and where I could afford benefits for myself and afford to pay for insurance and all of this stuff, all of these things that I was relying on a traditional 9-to-5 to get. I couldn't see how that was going to work out for me. Like, I knew I loved houseplants and I knew I loved going to the farmer's market and all of these things. But like, outside of content creation, which, I appreciate the 700 and something of y'all who have subscribed. But like, I've been doing YouTube it'll be 4 years this coming January, I believe, January or February. So this is year 3 I'm in right now. My channel is not monetized. So it's not like I got all this, all these brand deals and all of this stuff to rely on. Like, this is not, at this point, this is not like a source of income for me. So this didn't really seem like a realistic path. And like, for what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about anything salacious. I'm not really trying to sell y'all anything. I'm talking to y'all about like the things that I'm experiencing in my life, my layoff for the past 6 months, and then my house plants, like my plant failures, or like, my hacks for taking care of my plants, my farmers market hauls. And like, sure, would it be a dream for this channel to be able to sustain me one day, or at least like pay my mortgage? If I could get YouTube to pay my mortgage, then like, shout out to whoever could help me make that happen, like the viewers and, partnerships or brand deals or whatever. Like, I'm open to all of that. But my logical brain was like, yeah, that would be nice. That's a picture on the vision board. That's a journal, prompt or whatever. But like, how are you going to pay bills today? Like, how are you going to pay the mortgage next month? Because YouTube is not where it's at this present moment. And so it was in me getting laid off. And so when I go back to the decision as the portal, where am I at on time? 11 minutes. It might be longer than 20 minutes, y'all. I hope you stick with me because I got a lot to say. When I go back to the decisions as portal, it was in January. I went to a conference, a virtual conference, and I was like, oh, I am so tapped into everything these people are saying. They were people, it was just like a whole day of people who were talking about working in some regular 9-to-5 and how much they hated it and how they were so drained at the end of the day, but they still felt like they contributed nothing to society and to the world and the world that they wanted to grow and build, and how unfulfilled they felt, even though they had really stable, like a stable financial situation, and they had the good job with benefits and all of this stuff, and the 401k, and all of the things that people really seek out. And for some reason, they didn't feel fulfilled. And it wasn't until they took the path of permaculture or some related, planty type thing where it all kind of fell into place for them. It was I forget the name of the conference I was on, but it was a bunch of like ecologists and, like plant people from different walks of life. They just talked about how they came to be in this space and like how they found resonance with the land and like growing food and horticulture and all of this stuff. And it was everything that I had been feeling and saying that I wanted for my life. And here I had all these examples of people talking to me. It felt, about how they had the stability, they hated it, they felt awful, and then they decided to do something out of the norm and like created a business or found an organization that was aligned, and like how they've been able to use this skill that they've acquired. And a lot of these people were like permaculturists or, landscape architects, whatever. And so that was so inspiring to me. And it was because I did that conference where I was like, okay, I need to truly look into this permaculture stuff. Like, I have a background in urban planning, which I really hadn't used much of. I had taken more of the community development route, and like that was good and all. Like, I enjoyed supporting people. I was working mostly with like, they were called like opportunity youth. I don't know if that's still the term that's used, but people who were like disconnected from like work or school, but they were in this weird age frame of like 18 to 24. That was like kind of how I started the community development path. I had worked with some neighborhood associations and helped them with some visioning. I had done, worked with some federal government agencies. I had done all of this stuff and like workforce development. And I enjoyed helping people find their path. That was what I enjoyed. That I liked the organizations I was working with. Some were better than others, right? That I liked my coworkers. Some were cool. Some I still talk to this day. Many I don't. They were just like associates, people, ships passing in the night. Or they say like people you meet are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime, So there were a lot of seasons and reasons, like not a ton of lifetimes when it came to like coworkers and stuff. And so when I was in this last job, I think about my life a year ago today. August 7th, 2025, I had just come back. I was 7 days back to work after taking medical leave for 2 months for burnout and from the job that laid me off. And it was really in that second month, I would say like beginning to mid-July, where I really felt like my body was starting to just wake up to the fact that we didn't have to go to work and we were starting to feel refreshed and better and all of these things. And then as soon as August came and I got back into that office, it just like the stress immediately came back. The 2 months that I had been off, it had been undone over the course of like 10 days back at that office. And that's when I was like, this is really not sustainable for me, because like my mental health is so shot. And I just felt like it was not getting better, even though I thought the time away was going to help. And it helped while I was away, but I had to go back to work. And so when I got back to that job, I was like, this is not sustainable. You know, at that time, the program that I was supporting while I was on leave, we had found out that they had lost funding for it. So I was like asking around to the leaders, like, my program has lost funding. What does that mean for me? Like, is my job secure? I had people telling me to my face, lying to my face, telling me, yeah, your job is secure. Like, we've written you into this grant, and you'll do this and you'll do this. And we want to build out, you know, the program that you were doing in a different way on this team and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Fast forward to January, none of that stuck, or it was all just a lie. And now I have more intel, right? People have since hit me up, like former colleagues, like, oh yeah, they knew that they couldn't afford to sustain your position when you came back from leave. But I understand the legalities of it too. Like, I took FMLA, so it's like you can't immediately terminate somebody's employment as soon as they get back. There has to be a buffer period. But still, the amount of time they could have given me to tell me that I was being, like, my employment was going to be terminated, they waited until the very last minute, which is just shows that, you know, a lot of these jobs don't really care about you as a human. You're just the worker bee. And like, I get that. But the fact that they had gone out of their way to tell me that my job was secure, I thought that was really low. And the people in particular who has said these things to me, like, I'm not going to say I necessarily believed them, but like the way they were saying it was just so compelling. So for it to all happen the way it did, I was thankful for it in hindsight, because I would fantasize about just like waking up one day and quitting this job. But me being the consummate professional, I'm like, no, I can't do that. Although I want to, I won't allow myself to do that because I can't burn the bridge, blah, blah, blah. Even though I don't want to be in this industry no more, I don't want to see none of these people no more. Maybe 2 or 3 people from that last job I might want to continue to keep in touch with. And I do keep in touch with literally 3 people from that last job. And I've seen them. We've, you know, met for coffee. I've gone to a going away party for one of them. And so like 3 people who I, you know, like, reason, season, lifetime, right? Maybe they're a reason, maybe they're a season, you know, but like, we're still in touch. But the rest of them, I could do without, you know? So I was just like, dang, how can I separate from this place without having to do the whole rigmarole of like the 2 weeks and, oh, they're going to announce it at all staff and it's going to be a happy hour. Like, I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to celebrate with none of y'all. Like, I just want to leave and never have to think about y'all again or this work again. Bye. And so the blessing in that was that when they let me go, they burned the bridge for me. You burned the bridge for me. And then the last week, they told me I was being laid off a week before I actually separated from the job. And then none of the leaders talked to me. I was only in touch with HR and with my acting supervisor at the time and like my team. And which was odd because y'all went through the trouble of telling me that you're giving me a grace period of a week before my employment is ended. But like, none of y'all are talking to me to say anything, you know, like, I'm so sorry. Like, we tried to do everything we could, but whatever. And that's when I knew, like, y'all are cowards. Number one, this is horrible leadership, because in no way should this have happened this way. And number 2, y'all burned the bridge for me. I'm never going to see none of y'all again. I went and deleted those people that I needed to from LinkedIn, and then proceeded to take a long LinkedIn break, you know, after the fact. I didn't do what people do when they get laid off. Like, oh, I regret to inform everybody that I was made redundant from my role and keep me in mind for opportunities. I didn't do that because I didn't want to do it. I was like, thank God, like, I got an out. I got out from this whole performative system. And I know now that the reason why I was avoiding positions where I had to manage people, I managed programs. I was very much, I manage programs, not people type of a person. I'm open to being a mentor. I like mentoring people, but like, I don't need to sign your checks up. I don't want to be responsible for you. I know that was my body resisting capitalism in that way, you know? And like, yeah, we all a part of the capitalistic system, but like, I was rejecting that because I didn't want to I didn't want to have that kind of power over another person. I didn't want to do the whole KPI. It was just all so performative. So I was happy to be able to walk away from that bridge that had been burnt for me. I mean, it's burnt and the ashes are in the lake. You know what I mean? Like, there's no repairing that bridge for me, and there's no expectation to. And that was like the silver lining in all of it for me. To be able to take a step away from LinkedIn, which was just like, that is just not a social media platform that I've ever really enjoyed. I've always been bad about updating the status, and if I get a promotion, like, I don't want y'all all in my business like that. My promotion is between me and the people that's paying me the money. And really, I only want the promotion if it means that you're going to give me more money. You know, I think back to my worth. I think back on that job and like my worth. And as a statistically, right, Black women are usually, I don't know what the stat is. Will we make like a quarter for every dollar that a white man makes or something like that? I don't know it, you know, but it's like, it is a lot of inequity when it comes to pay. And I have this network of other Black women when we were talking about salaries, and it's just like, none of us really know what we should be making. I don't know if I'm being underpaid or not. And I will say that in my last role, I was thankful that I had a manager who was a white male, and he told me, you know, he left the organization and I ended up replacing his role. And he told me like, they should be paying you this amount or more. And I was like, cool, you know, and I'm thankful for those allies in the workplace, because I wouldn't know. I just got so used to being underpaid and like overperforming, because that is societal conditioning and just how I was brought up to just do more than what is expected. I'm not doing that no more. Not for nobody else. I'm not doing that anymore. I saw where that got me. It got me exhausted. It got me burnt out. It got me, you know, with a bridge that's burnt and like no job. So who cares? I could do my own thing, create my own piece, create my own network, and like be so much more fulfilled doing that than what I was doing before. So all of that to go back to the whole decisions as portal thing, it was like when I decided in mid-January that I was going to sign up for that course, and it was a pretty big financial investment. And that was why I hesitated initially, but I'm glad that the conference happened when it did, and I made the decision when I did, because in hindsight, had I gotten laid off before I registered for that class, I would have been too afraid to spend the money, so I wouldn't have done it. But I purchased the course, and then a week later I got laid off, or maybe like a few days later I got laid off. And now when I look back on it, initially, I was just thinking about it like, oh, I'm so glad that it happened when it did, because I spent the money and I would have been afraid to spend it. But now I look at it as, you made the decision. Like, I made the decision that I was changing my career, and here was the first step. And then the next thing that happened as an immediate response to me deciding to take a new path was me losing that old job that I hated. So the universe was just telling me like, yeah, that's the right next step. Like, you take the next step, and then we're going to put another path for you to walk on. And it's not going to look pretty all the time. It's not going to be a linear path. You might have to go backwards to go forward. And so I can see it in that way now. Like, when I decided that a whole new timeline was created for me. Like, I made the decision that I was going to do this permaculture certification. And then as soon as I did that, I lose the job that I have, you know? And so it's like, okay, that door is closing because this new door is opening, and I need to be present for it. I need to be fully available for it. That's how I see it now. I also had to work through this idea of needing to be constantly productive. Like, I replaced one level of overwhelm and like overproductivity for another. I got laid off from a job. Like I said, I was like a worker bee and doing all of these things. And I was the keystone for all of these projects I was on. And they kept telling me that. And I'm just like, y'all, that's great and all, but like, I can't pay my bills with compliments. So like, I don't want no more kudos. I don't want no more heartfelt emails. Don't call me no rock star at no all staff meeting unless you're going to put some money in my account. Like, I don't care that you think I'm great. Think I'm great by how much you pay me. because your words mean nothing to me. Obviously, right? You told me my job was safe and it wasn't. Your words mean nothing. So when I think about, what was I talking about? I done lost my train of thought now. Decisions as portals. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't important. It'll come back to me if it's meant to. So this new career path in permaculture. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I started. Okay, so I got laid off from the job, and then I was like, well, I got to be doing something. I can't just sit here idle. I got to be applying for jobs like nonstop, and I got to be doing this and I got to be doing that. That first, March, I had a conference. March, I had 2 conferences, and then I had another conference in April. So I got laid off, and then I was like, conference. And then plus I had the course. And when I started my course, I was like, I got the textbook. I'm going to read. I'm going to be taking all these notes, and I'm going to go to all of the office hours. And I was just like trying to do too much. And it's just like, girl, you're being gifted with the opportunity to rest. Just do nothing for a little while. Yeah, do your job search once a week. Because it's the economy and the job market is so bleak, and it's been so bleak for a year at this point, probably a little bit over that. But, the jobs just like were not there. I did have a couple of interviews, and some that both interviews I had to get out of the withdraw my application. This time off was also a test of my self-worth. One of the applications, or one of the interviews I had early on, I was grateful, honestly, because I felt like I needed that confidence boost after I got laid off. I got 2 interviews, or really just 1 interview. I had this 1 interview, and then it was in the interview process itself, the first get to know you call, where I was like, this is not a good fit. I knew it immediately. This is not a good fit. I was in a role where I did interviews. I coached people on how to interview for jobs. And so when I was in the receiving end of the interview, and the questions that were being asked and the way they were being asked, and it was just very condescending, and they were not clear. It was one person in particular who was just not very clear in the way he was questioning me. And it was clear that he was trying to do some gotcha moments. I don't play those types of games. This is not about ego. This is about you finding a candidate for this role that you need to hire for. And this is about me determining if I'm a good fit for your role. So when I started getting all of that ego stuff, like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, well, specifically, like, about what? Because there's a whole lot of this that you're referencing. Well, we're looking for somebody who takes initiative. And like, if you can't see what I'm asking you because I haven't asked you, I don't have time for that. So I went through the interview, and I was just, answered the questions, gave real basic answers at that point, because I'm like, this is my first impression of you, and I feel that you're condescending, and I don't want to work with you, and I'm going to have to report to you. And it was a position that was like, I was qualified for the role, but I was just in panic mode, applying for everything. And like, this was a test of my self-worth. Like, are you going to go back to entry level for this industry that you don't even want to be in? Or are you going to, value yourself enough to know that this is not for you? And like, sure, maybe that was the sign that wasn't for me. And I mean, like, no shade to entry level, right? People have to do what they have to do. But I would have much rather worked at Joann Fabrics than had to deal with that guy that I interviewed with, or be a barista, or go to Trader Joe's and be, ringing up your stuff and asking you how your week is going and recommending the new pretzels to you. Like, I would rather do that, than what that position was, for how it would have made me feel. That interview ended up going, it was so short. We went through all the questions they had, and then when they were like, oh, well, we've got time, do you have any questions for me? I think I asked a very generic question, one question, and then I was like, nope, that's it. And the guy who had been condescending at the beginning of the call, he was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you don't have any more questions? We're happy to answer that. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Got off the call, immediately wrote the email, like, to withdraw my candidacy for this role. The other opportunity that I had kind of been presented with, it was a position that a former coworker had sent to me, because this was the person that actually laid me off, funny enough. And she was like, you might be interested in this role. I applied for the role. It was like, a step up from where I was. they were wanting me to do a very extensive assignment before I had even gotten it first interview. And I was about to do it. I had started it. And they said it was only supposed to take 3 hours and I was going to be paid for it. 5 hours in, I was like, okay, what am I doing? And for some levels, some positions, I understand why they ask you to do assignments, but like, you usually do the assignment as part of the final interview process. Maybe it's between 2 or 3 candidates and like all of y'all have to do a pitch to leadership or submit something, a written assignment. And like, that's the determining factor. I'm not doing an assignment for you before we've even had one interview. What? And you're paying it for me. You're paying me for it, which means that if you don't even hire me, if you don't even give me one interview after I've submitted this assignment, you can use all of the ideas that I've given you and just say, oh, well, we paid you for it. Girl, bye. Absolutely not. So I went ahead and withdrew my candidacy for that position too. But that one was like, it mirrored what I was doing. So I was like, this is not, I need to take my hat out of this. Take my, what do you say? Take your name out of this hat, right? I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be affiliated with this organization I just left. And it was like the leaders were friendly with each other. You don't want to be in that network. What are you doing? So yeah, when I made that decision too, to really step away from the network that I was in to create my own network, and even to reshift my idea of what networking was, because I only have known networking to be incredibly performative. It's a very much like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And it's just like, I don't want to connect with you like that. I want us to connect over like a shared interest. And then we start to talk about what we do as a natural part of a conversation, instead of you gauging who I am based on what I do and whether or not what I do is valuable to you and if you're going to continue to speak to me. I've just been in that world for so long, for over a decade, and I just can't do it anymore. And so one of the conferences I went to was a seed conference. And so I met a bunch of like farmers and like right up my alley, right? And I was just getting into the permaculture stuff. And it was different. Networking was so different at that conference because it was genuinely like, we're all here because we have a shared interest in land. We have a shared interest in like ancestral knowledge that's been passed down about plants and seeds and agriculture. And it was just different. It was unlike any conference I've ever been to. I walked away with a bunch of spices, a bunch of seeds, and a bunch of resources that I didn't know existed, and like all of that stuff. I'm new to all of this, like this industry, right? Like that specifically was more geared towards agriculture. Like I'm not necessarily going into an agriculture specialty with my permaculture, but if I do, I have some resources for it. Or if I come across somebody else who might need the resource, I have something to share. So that was just a really good event to go to just kind of learn about what's in my, immediate surroundings area, and like even other states, because there were people who came in from different states talking about community gardens and like community, agricultural programs that they've put together in major cities across the US. It was just a really, really great opportunity. And it was the first time I've seen networking done differently in a very genuine, authentic way. And that piqued my interest even more in like permaculture. I feel like I should get my charger because I'm gonna be going for a little minute and it's already going down. Okay, hold on for a second. Okay, I'm back. Let's see. I don't remember where I left off, but the seed conference. So yeah, I was just doing so much, like got laid off and immediately hit the ground running. It was trying to figure out like unemployment. I was thankful that I was eligible for unemployment benefits and all of this stuff, but well, not all of this stuff. The unemployment benefits was like the only thing that I was eligible for, but still like that was helpful. And it wasn't until about May that I had some sort of epiphany where I was like, you kind of went from running at this job that you hated to like being gifted this layoff. And now you are packing your schedule with stuff again to overwhelm yourself because you just feel like my worth was so tied to productivity. And I don't want whatever comes in this next chapter of my life as far as like my career goes. I knew for sure that it had to be one of peace. It had to be one of ease and flow. And I didn't like that I was starting to recreate that cycle of overproduction for myself that was rooted in nothing but like a capitalistic foundation, you know, like, and this is also ancestral, right? As a Black person in the US who is a descendant of enslaved people, where like my ancestors would literally, you know, be subjected to, I don't know, death, or, you know, I have no clue, if they weren't productive all the time. Like the ability to rest is such a privilege, you know, and like I had to start looking at my life that way. Like, you have been gifted with this time off, not just so that bridge can burn itself, because amen to that, but also because I needed to recalibrate what it meant for me to be productive, you know, and like my productivity not being inherently linked to my self-worth, and like I am worthy just because I exist. Like, me existing is enough. That's enough. I am valuable because I exist, without me having to exhaust myself and do a million things in a day, or like start the day and hit the ground running like Sonic the Hedgehog without even having a meal or drinking water. Like, that was my life a lot of the times. I'm ripping and running. I haven't even nourished myself properly, you know, and I knew that whatever this next step was, permaculture or whatever, I didn't want to recreate that. I don't want to do entrepreneurship. I don't want to start entrepreneurship that way. And so I knew that I had to do a lot of reprogramming of my mind, because my body just knew that to be its normal state. And so it was in May where I finally had a clear schedule. I was like, I don't have nothing to do except for go to class. And, you know, I had class once a week and I would listen to my lectures, and that was pretty much it. That's all I had to do. I would still spend my one day a week, you know, job searching or whatever, but I didn't have much to do. And I started to take advantage of that, and just being able to do what I wanted during the work week. You know, like, there were times when I was out in places that I would typically try to avoid because they would just be so busy and, you know, populated with everybody on the weekends. And I'm like, it's a Tuesday morning and I can come here and I can experience this space. I can come to this park and sit on a bench and it not be crowded with people and look at the ducks and like just enjoy that, because I get the privilege of being out here in the middle of the workday. And not everybody else has that luxury, you know? And so it was then mid spring that I started to like really feel a shift happening and lean into it. And it was also around that same time when I started going back to the chiropractor. I had taken a break from going to my chiropractor because I needed to get my insurance together, ended up purchasing private insurance. And thankfully, you know, because I was unemployed, I was able to get a like subsidized insurance through like the city's marketplace or whatever, and got really good insurance, honestly, like better insurance than I had when I was employed. Funny enough, like my copay is much cheaper. So I was able to start going back to my chiropractor, and, you know, I'm so thankful for my chiropractor. I saw them today. I'm so thankful because this last couple of weeks, I just felt like I've just been in a state of gratitude, and that's really how I'm trying to live my life. And I'm just so grateful for this time off, but also the people in my life who have had like positive influences, even if they don't know it. But my chiropractor was like the only person, the only medical person that I went to about this shoulder that I'm still rehabbing. And I said, like, you know, I'm in some pain. It had been okay for a while. And then the pain came back, and it was just, I would have this sporadic pain. And it was in February, once I lost my job, and the chiropractor was like, well, before you lose your insurance, like, let's go ahead and order you an MRI so we can figure out what's going on. That was the first time. I had been to 3 different doctors about my shoulder. 3 different chiropractors plus my primary care physician. And because I kept passing all of the rotator cuff, you know, tests or whatever to see if there was a tear, they just said, like, oh, we'll just get a new pillow. And it was not until my chiropractor in February ordered my MRI, when I went, and I have a video about my experience getting the MRI. I went, and then when they got the report and basically told me, like, you got chronic pain, you know, well, I knew I had chronic pain, but I didn't know what was going on. I had a lot of scar tissue. I have a lot of scar tissue around my shoulder joint or whatever. And it makes sense because this has been going on for like maybe 4 years, this pain that I've had. And I don't even know what triggered it. And like when I first started to feel the pain, I don't know if that was truly the beginning of it, or if I was just always in such a dysregulated state that my nervous system was just used to it hurting. And it was, you know, it wasn't until until the last few years when as I started to do this work with my therapist, honestly, and I started to heal other parts of my body, the parts of my physical vessel that had been screaming and on fire that I couldn't feel because there was so much stuff that was covering up the pain. As I started to work through a lot of those issues, pain started to show up in my body, and I could feel it because my nervous system was calm enough for me to actually know that something was wrong. So I don't know when the pain actually started. I think I was masking it for quite a while, given the amount of scar tissue that I have, you know, on this shoulder joint. So one of the things that we decided to do was, when I was in a financially stable place and had insurance again, that I would start with physical therapy, and that part of my physical therapy would be dry needling. And so I had an appointment today. I had my 3rd session. I was scheduled for 4 sessions, but I've made such good progress, and I had been doing it once a month. Like movements that I couldn't do. There's still some things like I can do this on this side. I cannot do this on this side. Ooh, even that's a little painful, but I can't do this on this side. And I told my chiropractor, like, listen, I got to be able to do this. I got to be able to put both hands on the hips. And they're like, you know, 1 foot in front of the other, right? Like you got to take it step by step. You will get to that point though. But right now, I just had to focus on breaking up the scar tissue. And my chiropractor is very, very optimistic about the progress that I've made and the ability for me to break up that scar tissue enough where I can get my full range of motion. But like doing things like even putting my seatbelt on have been really painful for me at one point. So, you know, one of the other blessings from this time off has been my healing, healing my physical vessel. And I've had this chronic shoulder pain for many years now. And the fact that I am finally starting to feel different sensations, right? Like really the only thing that's causing me pain is my sleeping position. I still got to figure my sleeping position out, but it had gotten to a point where if I could just be standing, or, I haven't been able to do yoga in like over a year. But like chaturanga, I cannot do chaturanga without hurting myself right now. And that pains me because my yoga practice had become so sacred to me, and just being able to do those movements and that meditative flow really helped me, clear my mind and also make me feel strong. And I just haven't felt strong in my body lately since I've been like nursing this injury. And even, before I lost the job, when I was still dealing with the pain, I would go to the chiropractor and I would be feeling better and then get cocky and immediately start trying to do yoga and stuff and then hurt myself. And then it was this cycle of like, I feel a little bit better. Let me start doing the most again. And over these last few months since May, I have been in some deep rest and just allowing myself to heal. So it's been a very beneficial time off. I have a lot more to talk about, and I will, but I want to go ahead and end this video here because based on where I cut it off at the last, clip, it's probably about 45 minutes. Now I'm assuming, I don't know, but I don't want it to get too long. So I want to end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm about to immediately start filming the next part because I'm not even halfway down my list, and I got a lot to catch y'all up on. So I hope you join me for the next video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Give this video a thumbs up. Let's get this channel monetized. I know I've been saying that or whatever, but like whatever, it's gonna happen when it happens, but your engagement helps a lot. So I hope y'all have been well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.